So when it comes to writing the examination, there are some things that you have to keep in mind. Like say for example, when you see a question paper, you have to let us start right from the beginning. Okay, so you get the question paper, you have 15 minutes of reading time. What are you going to do during that 15 minutes of reading time? Okay, have you have any ideas, anything that you want to say now? Reading time usage, any guess about what is the usage of the reading time, how you can do this? So okay, let me tell you. So the reading time 15 minutes is not just a time for sitting and becoming calm. Maybe that's also part of the process, but you have to read the question paper carefully. Okay, and you're not allowed to write anything, so you read the questions. You see, you can formulate in your head how you are going to write the answers. Okay, so maybe you read first question and you say, yeah, I know the answer to this. Second question, okay, fine. Third question, not so sure. How do I give this answer? Should I do a drawing? Shall I give an example? Okay, you have some questions, you don't need to answer everything fully. So you process each question like that in your mind. So you're forming a strategy in your mind how to answer these questions one by one. Then later you go to the second part, the section 2. Section 2, of course, you have 6 questions, right? 4 plus 6. So in the 6 questions, you have to answer any 4. So one of the most important things that you can do in the reading time is you can read those 6 questions carefully, and you can make a decision of which questions you are going to answer. So most probably students will say, okay, all the mechanics part of it, most students attempt. Light part of it, most students attempt. Then you have the sound part of it, again, most students attempt. Now, the parts in which usually students make a choice is electricity, calorimetry, and sound. Okay, so these three, depending upon your preparation, you want to make a selection of any. Okay, so there you have to read carefully. Sometimes if you go with a preconceived idea that I am not going to do sound, or I am not going to do electricity, then you may restrict your options. Okay, so study everything. You have your strengths, you have your weaknesses, but in the exam hall, when you are sitting, read all the questions and then make a informed choice about which topics to choose and which topics to leave out. And that you can do by reading the questions and thinking about it. Do I know the answer to this question? Can I answer this question or not? Do I have a strategy? Do I have a method to answer it? So these kinds of thinking you should do during the first 15 minutes, and then you keep your choice with you, and then later when the paper starts, you can start answering. So regarding answers, a few points. Always look at the number of marks that are given. I'm sure your sir would have also told you this. Look at the marks. If you have a 1 mark question, okay, then please don't bother writing more than 1 or 2 sentences, not more than that. Okay, most of the time you can just simply answer it in 1 sentence, because we are looking for keywords and key phrases. In that 1 sentence, you have to make sure that you are mentioning the keyword and the key phrase. So that is how you score the marks. If 2 mark question is asked, that means you can be sure that there are 2 points that has to be mentioned by you. There are 2 parts to answer. Okay, one part will be the explanation, one part will be the definition, one part will be the explanation for a formula. The second part may be the formula itself. Maybe you have to give an example, right? Maybe you have to give an application. So when you're writing the answers, 2 mark question, always think of 2 points. Okay, that is important to remember. If you have written only 1 point, then for those 2 mark question, you may get 1 mark, you may lose the other mark. Okay, so you have to think about that. And luckily for us, most of the ICSE questions in the last few years, they have all been 1 mark or 2 mark questions, very rarely 3 mark questions. 3 mark questions, I will come to 3 mark questions also. Usually it will involve making a graph, making a drawing, or it will be a numerical problem. Most probably numerical problem that comes in work energy. that will come in light when it comes to image formation in the lens, and drawing graphs in order to show things like in electricity or in calorimetry. So this is how you plan your paper. Okay, write the answers. Always practice. When you practice with past papers, always practice in such a way that you are able to write 3 points for 3 marks, 2 points for 2 marks, 1 point for 1 mark. You think like that. Okay. um, Now coming to, okay, any questions at this point of time, anything that you want to ask?
No, sir.
Okay, so then I will carry on. So the next part of it is when you are writing answers, try to start an answer at the top of each page. Okay, I see that many students, even my students, I have told them several times, but they keep forgetting. So when you write something like answers, I'm just showing you for example, if things are written continuously like this, for the examiner to find out where is the question starting, it's a little bit difficult. So when you complete an answer on a page like this, you want to start the next answer. First answer you have answered, second answer you want to answer. Please start with a fresh page. Okay, you may leave some paper blank. Some of you may not be okay with that. You may say that why waste paper, we can, but it's okay for an examination. It's okay when you're writing in your notebook, when you're writing assignments, you can save paper. But when you're writing in examinations, it's all right, leave a little bit of space and then start with the fresh page. That is always easier for the examiner to correct. And when the examiner is in a good mood, he is finding your answers have been written in a proper manner, then they are also willing to extend themselves to give you the marks. When you're writing answers, try to underline the final answer. If you know which the keywords are, which the key phrases are, put an underline under that with your pencil or with your pen. When it's a numerical answer, when you write the answer in the end, put some underlined under that answer so that you indicate that that is the correct answer that you want to show. Okay, that will be very useful for the examiner, and it will be easy for you also to highlight what you have written. Okay, so that is another small tip that I would like to give. Now coming to some other points in that. Now I would like to go into some commonly made errors chapter wise. Okay, a small note about the syllabus and the textbook. Okay, when you are studying for the examination, um, the syllabus document, I don't know if all of you are familiar, sir must have introduced the idea. There is something called a syllabus document which is there in the CISE website. So if you go to the ICSE website, then you can download the syllabus for all subjects. For physics also it is there. Okay, so the reduced, further reduced syllabus, everything is given over there. When you are studying for an examination, please ensure that you are also looking at the syllabus document very carefully. Okay, because the syllabus document is what that says these are the topics from which the questions are going to come in the examination. When you are studying from the textbook, support topics will always be taken up. Okay, but those support topics may not come in the examination as questions. So you don't want to waste your time studying those concepts, unnecessary concepts, concepts which will not be asked in the examination at all. तो इसमें बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट होता है कि सिलेबस डॉक्यूमेंट को आप केयरफुली स्टडी करें, ताकि you know clearly what is going to be asked and what is not going to be asked. This will be very useful for doing efficient revision. Okay, so how to use the syllabus document, that's an entirely different topic. I can share some documents with you people about how the syllabus document is and how you can use the syllabus document a little more in detail, particularly in this year when the syllabus has been reduced and several things have been removed. It is very important for students to know exactly what is coming and what is not coming. Okay, then moving on to topic wise. So you have the first chapter. Mm, so this part of the talk, I'm going to talk about common mistakes that students make and what you can do to avoid those mistakes. Okay, and I will go chapter wise, topic wise in this. So when let's say we'll take up some questions and then we will discuss it from that. So when it comes to examination questions, very broadly I will classify the exam questions into two types. Okay, एक तो है जो मेमोरी टाइप क्वेश्चंस है, जहां पे आपकी मेमोरी की क्वेश्चन पूछी जाती है. सो द क्वेश्चन इज टैपिंग योर मेमोरी. ओके, memory is a very important part of examination. We say we should not memorize and things like that, but some things you have to memorize. Okay, जैसे आपको क्वेश्चन पूछ लिया गया कि what is meant by the term moment of force. So moment of force, you have to know what is the meaning of moment of force. You have to be able to define it, and that you have to answer from memory. Okay, so there is no two ways about it. आपको memory से answer करना पड़ेगा, और उसके लिए you have to study. You have to be thorough with your syllabus. You have to be thorough with your definitions. But then there is a second type of question. The second type of questions are those questions which are application based questions. So there is a concept, उसमें एक memory part है और उसमें एक application part है. So that application part of the question also will come. In fact, I would say that 50-50. Your physics paper is going to be 50% memory based questions, or maybe a little bit more than 50%, and some 50% or little bit less than 50% will be application based questions. Okay, so you have to answer both types of questions in order to be able to score your marks. Memory type questions can be coached. We can give you the definitions, we can ask you to memorize the definitions, and we can give you a lot of tests to reproduce those definitions so that you are able to accurately reproduce and get the mark. Application type questions आपको practice करना पड़ेगा. You have to find out those questions, you have to practice, and by only doing it again and again will you be able to meet it. Because I can give you a numerical problem based on calorimetry with one set of figures. If they give another type of questions based on the same concept, you should be able to answer that. That is how they test whether you have understood the concept well or you have not understood the concept well. Okay, so there we can only teach, you have to practice, and you have to ensure that you are going to score that mark. Now, another type of questions that are asked, this is again memory based, which is mention two differences between mass and weight of a body. So this is a question that has come in 2006, but it's a question that repeats itself. Mass or weight की differences बताइए, 2 mark के लिए. So over here you have to, the best strategy I would say is make a tabular column. Okay, difference 1, difference 2. Mass क्या होता है? You can write mass is measured in kilograms, weight is measured in newtons. One difference, 1 mark, done. Then you can write a definition. Mass is the amount of matter contained in the body. On the other side, you will write it is the force that it applies in the downward direction due to the gravitational attraction of the earth. 2 marks, guaranteed. Okay. So you have to mention 2 marks like this. And if you, it is best when they ask about differences that you draw a tabular column and show the differences. Okay. Any doubts or questions about what I have said so far? Now I come to another type of question, which is, maybe about 10 to 15 marks are based on this kind of work. Okay, drawing diagrams. So diagram drawing mein, one of the diagrams in which from the first unit, work, energy and power, one of the diagrams that students always make a mistake is drawing pulleys. Okay, so when you have a block and tackle system like this diagram, you're able to see this diagram, block and tackle system. Okay, this is a 3+2 block and diagram. Unless you practice these diagrams, you are not going to get it right. You have to practice these diagrams. आपने एक बार देख लिया, then you think, I can draw this. But no, you will not be able to draw it if you do not practice it. If some of you are gifted artists, then you look at the picture and you can remember how to draw it, that's a different matter. But most of us, 99% of us, we are not gifted artists. We have to practice how to draw these diagrams. You don't need to draw very elaborate diagrams. जो block and tackle diagram मैंने दिखाया था, उसको बहुत आसानी से just with lines and circles also you can do the job. Okay, if you don't know how to complete the diagram also, it is okay. If you just draw the block and tackle and draw the pulleys, but you didn't know how to put the wire around it, chalega, do the diagram, okay, because there is always a chance that you will get some grace marks for drawing at least part of the solution, okay. So there is pulley diagrams, there is ray diagrams, there is graphs that you have to draw in calorimetry, graphs that you have to draw in electricity. All of these diagrams and graphs, please practice. आपने अगर 5 बार इसको प्रैक्टिस किया है, each diagram को 5 बार प्रैक्टिस किया है, that means you are good to go. That means that if they are asked in the question paper, there is a good chance that you will be able to draw it. Otherwise, you may not be able to draw the diagram, you will lose the marks. Diagrams like this can carry 2 to 3 marks. So don't lose the opportunity. Practice the diagrams and score as much as you can from diagrams. So the next thing that I want to talk about is a little bit of mathematical equations. Okay, usually in every class, around 50% of the class is scared of numerical problems. Okay, sometimes more, but usually not less than 50%. So the thing is that I tell my students, look, you all know how to do addition, subtraction, multiplication, division. Okay, this is all that is required as far as physics is concerned in 10th standard for ICSE. There is nothing more complicated than that. Okay, and if you know the equation and you can just put in the values, do the calculation and give the answer, 1 mark or 2 marks are easy for taking. And moreover, every physics paper, and you can check this, in the last 5-6 years, they have not had anything more than 10 to 12 marks, maximum 15 marks per paper, whole paper. Okay, that is all 10 questions. So that 10 to 15 marks, first of all, it is not a lot. So if you leave the 10 to 15 marks also, around 85% is possible for you. Of course, you will lose some marks over there also, you may come down. But that 1 mark, 2 mark numerical problems, don't miss them. Okay, so you can practice for them and you can easily score from them. Now coming to numerical problems, there are 1 or 2 small points that I want to make. When you give the answer to a numerical problem, please ensure that you write the units along with it. Writing 40 is not enough. 40 what? You know, I ask my students, 40 donkeys, 40 monkeys, 40 what? You have not written the units. So how do I know what you are talking about, right? So if it is 40 watts, then write 40 watts. If it is 40 newtons, write 40 newtons. If it is 40 joules per kg degree Celsius, write 40 joules per kg degree Celsius, because that will ensure that you get the full 2 marks for that. If you don't mention the units, you might lose your marks. Okay, so again, just like I said for diagram making, numerical problems also, practice is very important. Practice as many numerical problems as possible, and all these questions take from past papers. Okay, so the past papers will give you the kind of questions that comes in the board examination, and you can answer directly from those past papers. Then you get a good idea of what kind of questions will come for the examination and what kind of questions will not come for the examination. Okay, so moving on now. So this is also again something that continues in the numerical problems. The sort of refractive index. So there are 2 ways in which the refractive index is defined. So I'll just switch to the whiteboard now to show you this. So you all know that mu indicates the refractive index. Are you able to see what I have written?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
And refractive index, there are 2 ways in which it is defined. One is through Snell's law, right? So you have refractive index is the sine of the angle of incidence upon the sine of the angle of refraction. So that is one type. Okay. Then there is another way in which the refractive index is defined, which is the ratio of the velocities of light in vacuum and in the medium that is given. So out of these 2, I find that normally they do not ask numerical questions from this. Okay, you are only supposed to know that equation. You are just supposed to write down that equation if required as part of your definition. But this equation, they can give you some questions, numerical questions based on it. So one thing is very important. You have to remember what is the velocity of light in vacuum. Okay, so I hope you will remember this. 3 times 10 power 8 meters per second. So typical question that could be asked is, they will give you the refractive index for glass. They will tell you find out the velocity of light in glass. So it's a simple equation with only 3 variables in which you have been given the refractive index, and you are supposed to remember the velocity of light in vacuum. Then you rearrange the equation and you will get the answer for velocity of light. It is as simple as that. If you know some very basic algebra and your addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, you should be able to answer these types of questions. Okay. And so over here, refractive index for different media. So in our textbook, there are lots of refractive index for different materials given. But you don't need to memorize anything other than refractive index for water and glass. Okay, so I'll just write refractive index for water and refractive index for glass. These two refractive indices you are supposed to commit it to memory. Okay, any questions about this, or shall I move on? Okay, so now let us come to one of the biggest problems for students in light, which is when you look at lenses and you have to draw the ray diagram, construction rays and the ray diagram in order to show where the image is formed. Now, when we are learning this kind of a topic can seem a little bit complicated. Okay, those who are good at geometry, and very few people are good at geometry, they will find it comfortable to study this. But most of us are not falling under that category, so we are going to find this a little bit difficult. Drawing ray diagrams to show how images are formed. Again, like I said before, it's a construction, it is a diagram, so the only solution is to practice. Okay, now when I tell students to practice, they tell me, sir, but there are so many different ray diagrams, how many to practice? Okay, so how many different ray diagrams to practice? It takes a lot of time to do it. So my answer to them is very simple. There are only 2 types of lenses that we are discussing, right? So we have this type of lens. So you can see, yeah. What type of lens is this incidentally? Do you know? This is a magnifying glass. So we use a double convex lens. Okay, so that's a converging lens or a double convex lens. There are only basically 3 or 4 positions that are possible. Okay, which is that either the object is at infinity. That is very simple because you have played with this. Most of you would have used this mischievously, right? To burn paper, you keep it under the sun and you keep it under, you show it to a piece of paper. If you concentrate the light, the sunlight on that page, you can burn the page, right? I have played with it. I'm sure many of you would have played with it. So that is that concept. Rays of light that are coming from sun are nearly parallel to one another. So they will all converge at a point. When you are doing that, so I will show that to you in the other camera. So when you are doing it like this, right? So you're sort of doing this, and then the sun rays are converging over here, and there is a point that is formed, and that becomes very hot naturally because you're concentrating the energy of the sun's rays on that point. Then it will burn. So now you can think about focal length, focal plane, okay, principal axis, all of these things. It's not visible when you're playing, it is not visible. But if you have seen the ray diagram, I'll see if there is a ray diagram of that over here, this one. If you have seen the ray diagram, then it should strike you, oh, this is what is going on over there. So that is one possible position. Then you can bring the object closer from infinity and somewhere near the 2f2, that is near the center of curvature. So then there is one kind of an image formation that takes place. You move it from center of curvature towards the focus. Then another kind of image formation takes place. Then from focus up to optical center, then another kind of image formation takes place. So basically for converging lenses, there are only 4 types of diagrams that you have to draw. And I am telling you, I am guaranteeing you, if you start practicing, then you will immediately understand what needs to be done. Again, I am repeating, without the practice, you will not be able to construct. So if you think that, ha, ek do dekh liya hai, I will go to the examination and I will draw the ray diagram, you will get confused between converging lens and diverging lens and you will make mistakes. Okay, rahi baat diverging lens ki, diverging lens very easy. There is only one position that they will generally ask, and normally every other year only they ask this one, but there is only basically one that you have to practice. And if you have done 4 in converging lens and 1 in diverging lens, I will say that you are 70% prepared for drawing ray diagrams. Okay, and now I want to just talk generally a little bit about drawing diagrams and doing graphs. One thing that I notice students often do, okay, this is the answer sheet. Okay, तो रे डायग्राम बनाने के लिए कहा है, and you make something like this. Okay, the ray diagram is drawn. I tell my students that this is too small, it is not big enough. This is your answer sheet. The diagram should not be so tiny, you have to magnify it. So they tell me, how big should we make? Shall we cover the entire page? No, not necessary. What you have to do is, you imagine that you divide the paper into quadrants, 4 parts. Okay, whether you are drawing a diagram or you are making a graph, make sure that your diagram or graph never falls into only one quadrant. It has to come in at least to 2 quadrants. You can do it like this, or you can put it in the middle over here, whatever you want, lekin not in one quadrant alone. So this way of drawing the diagram, I would say, is not a good idea. Don't do it like that. If you want to make a graph like this. Okay, so maybe this is time and this is amplitude, and you want to show a sound wave. Of course, sound wave you can show it like this also. The x-axis will come like that, the y-axis like this. So you make sure that your drawings always fall into 2 quadrants. Don't draw these lines and then try to divide it. You do it in your mind, but don't make the diagrams too small. The examiner will find it difficult to see the diagram. Okay. Then second point about drawing ray diagrams in particular, please draw a ray diagram using a scale. Don't do freehand diagrams. Never do freehand diagrams. Okay. So आपने scale ले लिया. See, all of these things are only sketches. We are not doing perfect construction using, compass and things like that. You are only asked to do sketches. So don't worry too much about the accuracy, but the lines should be as straight as possible. So यहाँ पे आपने lens को लगा लिया. Then you approximately, you measure and mark. Take a few centimeters, 8 centimeters this side, then 8 centimeters on this side. So whatever, this is your principal focus, secondary focus, however you want to do it. I always get confused between these two. So don't look at my diagram for that. And then you draw the object over here, and then you proceed to make your construction. Okay. So that is another small tip. Don't make diagrams using freehand. Always use a scale. So a construction ray, maybe I can just draw and show to you. Like that. Okay. And another important thing, when you draw construction rays, do not forget to show the direction in which the light is going. Okay, that is very important, that you have to show the arrows. And of course, if you have real image, you have to show with a solid arrow. If you have a virtual image, then you have to show it with dotted line. These are all the things that get you those 1 or 2 marks extra, or you will get it right only by practicing. So आप ray diagram practice करो, you take a picture of the ray diagram, send it to Sagar sir, he will look at it and he will tell you where you are making a mistake and where you can correct it. You do this 2-3 times, then you are good to go. Okay, is it clear now? So next we come to sound. Okay, in sound, the type of questions that are asked are always numerical type questions. I'm sure that the theoretical type questions you are all able to answer, but for numerical type questions, echo is a very important question. Every time, at least in the second section, in sound part, one numerical based on echo will always be there. Okay, so the concept is that like somebody is standing and they are making some sound. Okay, and there is a cliff or a mountain, something is there on the side. Okay, so the sound goes from this person to the cliff and then it reflects and comes back. What I'm trying to suggest is that whenever you see an echo type question, always try to draw a rough diagram. And that rough diagram will actually give you the picture of what is really happening over here. So you can write down, say they have given the velocity of the sound, 330 meters per second. So he makes the sound and he hears the sound after 2 seconds. So they then tell you what is the distance between him and the cliff. Okay, so if you make a rough sketch of what is going on, then you will be able to correctly answer the question, because most of the time students make a mistake in this. They do not consider the time interval for the sound to go and to come back. Okay, so if you say that it takes 2 seconds to go over there and then you calculate based on this 2 seconds and then you multiply these two and you give the answer, then that will be 2 times the distance for going and coming back, and that will become a wrong answer. So you have to be a little bit careful in echo type questions to make sure that you are answering the question. So question samajhna bahut important hota hai. You have to be clear what the question is asking. Okay, then you will be able to accurately answer the question. So while making a diagram, let's say for example, there is a question that is asked that a ray of light is incident at an angle of 45 degrees at the boundary between air and glass for a glass slab. So मान लो this is a glass slab. Okay, and there is a ray of light that is incident at an angle of 45 degrees. So up to here students get it correctly. So they say, the question says mark the angle of incidence and the angle of refraction. 2 mark question. Angle of incidence के लिए 1 mark, angle of refraction के लिए 1 mark, 2 mark questions. So now what my students often end up doing is they mark this angle as 45 degrees. Many of them do that. Okay, and this is not the correct answer, because the angle of incidence is not based on the side on which it is falling, on which the light is incident. Okay, it is measured from an arbitrary perpendicular line which is called as the normal. तो ये गलत हो जाएगा, right? And the correct answer is to draw it from the normal to the incident ray. So this is 45 degrees angle of incidence. Okay, similarly when the light refracts on this side, okay, the angle of refraction is not this, that will be wrong. The angle of refraction is this, always between the normal and the ray. Okay, The reason why that is so is, in this case, it's not a problem, especially if it is 45 degrees, this will be 45, that will also be 45, so no problem. But if it is not a glass slab, say it is a curved slab, so a curved slab hai aisa, okay, and there is an light ray which is incident like this on that, okay. So this angle of incidence, if you take that as the angle of incidence, that will be between the ray and a curve over there, okay, and that might be a problem because we cannot measure an angle between a straight line and a curve, because if you measure it here it will be different, if you measure it here it will be different, okay. And what if the curve is not like this? It can be any kind, right? It can also be curved like this. So that is the reason why at that point of incidence we always draw a perpendicular, and then we say that the angle of incidence is this angle, okay. So that is the reason why the angle of incidence is always between the ray and the normal. So don't make that mistake and lose 1 mark or maybe even 2 marks for that part, okay. So that is one thing that I wanted to say in light. And then coming to one more question. So this question I would like to share. I'll read it out. Maybe many of you are not able to see it. And this is about strategy, answering strategy. A lens forms an erect, magnified, and virtual image of an object. Okay, name the lens. And second question is, draw a label diagram to show the image formation. Image formation की बात हो गई है. Now name the lens. Okay. So in this type of a question, you don't have to. What is the strategy that you use? मान लो कि suddenly you got confused. You don't know which type of lens you are talking about. How many types of lens are there in our syllabus? Only 2. So you have to consider whether it is a converging lens or a diverging lens. So instead of getting confused with the question, try to strategize and limit your options. Okay, let us say that they ask a question, at the end of that they say give the characteristics of the image formed. तो characteristics of image में कितने होते हैं? Real होता है या तो virtual होता है. Then it can be upright or it can be inverted. So the thing is that your options, when you narrow, then you can think a little bit more clearly. मान लो that is a 1 mark question that you have been asked to give 2 characteristics of the image. So you are not sure it is upright, inverted, or magnified. So write down, limit your options, make it 3 or 4 options and write the options down. If possible, remove some of them, cut some of them out so that you leave the ones that you feel are the correct answer, or you leave it as it is. Let the examiner look at that and make a choice. See, you don't have any other go. You have to either leave the answer, leave the question unanswered, or you write something. Every time when you attempt, please write something, as far as possible, something relevant to that. Then it is possible for the examiner to award some marks for that question in case he or she feels that you are deserving of the marks. Don't leave any question unanswered or blank. Okay, so that I make it very clear. Okay, so now we can move into a little bit in electricity. In electricity, I have only one point to make. That is a commonly made mistake, and with that we are sort of coming to the nearly the end of this. The most commonly made mistake is in parallel circuits. So if you have a circuit like this, resistor 1, resistor 2, and you have been asked to find out the effective resistance, equivalent resistance between point A and B. Since there are only 2 involved, and you can easily see that this is parallel, for circuits that are in parallel, everybody knows the formula. 1 by RP is equal to 1 by R1 plus 1 by R2. So here it is very simple. Let's say that they give 3 ohms over here and 2 ohms over here. My students are easily able to make that calculation and arrive at the answer. Okay, and I'm sure you are all also able to do it. Now what happens is that in the end you have got the answer 1 by Rp is equal to 1 upon something x ohms. If you do not find the reciprocal of this, so actually Rp, the equivalent resistance, is equal to x ohms. But if you write the answer as Rp is equal to 1 by x ohms, this is wrong. You will lose the mark, usually 2 marks. This is a 2-mark question that is usually asked. And if you don't write that, then that is gone. So when you are doing resistors in parallel in particular, please be very careful that you find the reciprocal in the end. One option is of course there, that if you are given only 2 resistors, then you can just simply simply say that it will be R1 R2 by R1 plus R2. If you use this equation, you don't have to find out the reciprocal. But if they give you 3 resistors, then you don't have a choice. You have to use this equation plus R3, 1 by R3, and in the end you have to find out the reciprocal. Otherwise, all your mehnat will go to waste. Okay, so this is basically what I wanted to say. um, I had something to say about calorimetry also. So I have a calorimeter over here just to remind you about what calorimetry is, but I'm not going to talk anything about this right now. I'm sure you have been introduced to these ideas by Sagar sir. So with that, I think I will come to a stop. I have taken 20 extra minutes of your time. I'm sorry. Um, but I hope that the useful and that you will be able to do better in your exams by having taken whatever I had to share into